The time by Sagicor is
7 p.m.
Tonight in CVM News, region on edge following U.S. military operation in Venezuela. Flights cancelled, Caribbean aviation impacted following Maduro capture. Lost at sea, search for missing cop and teen continues. And in sports, two-man bob cops another gold medal. Hello from Kingston, Jamaica. This is CVM News at 7. It's Saturday, January 3, 2026. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Caroline Brown. Well, the Caribbean has been forced to pay keen attention to developments in the region after the United States carried out a rapid military operation against Venezuela early Saturday. President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were captured and removed from the country to face narco-terrorism charges in New York. Now, the operation marked the climax of an escalating pressure campaign by the Trump administration that in recent months included strikes on vessels accused of smuggling drugs to the United States. Caribbean countries are already seeing the impact of this always problematic and heated standoff.
It is fair to say that what we saw happen last night in Venezuela is uncharted territory.
The Prime Minister of Barbados briefing the country on matters of national security in light of the developments in Venezuela this weekend, as even they face their own security issues at home. Regional leaders in wisdom taking on a wait-and-see, watch and closely monitor the ever-changing situation before sharing a definitive position on the action of the United States and the resulting implications.
It was too early a stage for us to make any defining comment. That is still the position because as we speak, matters are unfolding every half hour to an hour.
The Prime Minister of Barbados always expressing concern knowing the repercussions of this standoff could be serious.
But where Barbados becomes affected is on a number of areas, and we would have said this previously, which is why we continue to assert that small states really can only survive in an international rules-based order. For us, we always said that conflict would have consequences.
Truth is, the region is living them out today, and adjustments are being made to cushion the unfolding development. As leaders eye the possible implications for the region, already there are flight cancellations. The National Security Council thereafter convening a meeting.
Barbados is probably the biggest hub closest to Venezuela in terms of tourism, and therefore in terms of air flights and in terms of hotel accommodation and cruise accommodation, we would inevitably be affected.
And as regional leaders update those stranded, whether on their soil or in Venezuela, officials from Home Affairs and Immigration, the military and the respective ministries of government are collaborating to resolve any inconvenience during this period of transition. CARICOM, in the meantime, towing the line and using diplomacy as they secure their relationship with both countries and protect their own interests.
Venezuela is our friend. The United States of America is our friend. In fact, in both instances, we have family relations with both countries. By the same token, the Caribbean community has been the entity that we have chosen as a matter of first principles to align our foreign policy with. When the heads of government met this morning, all of the persons were not there because it was an emergency early meeting. We took a decision that we will wait for other information to become present. And when that happens, we will certainly act collectively, and I do not want in any way to prejudice the integrity of that consultative process with CARICOM.
For CVM News, I'm Damon Phillips.
And as you heard, as a result of the U.S. military action in Venezuela that led to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, hundreds of flights have been cancelled across the Eastern Caribbean. The FAA imposed restrictions due to the security situation, with disruptions expected to last for days. However, officials at both the Norman Mann International and the Sangster International airports have confirmed flights have not been impacted at this time. Meanwhile, during a press conference hosted by the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, it was confirmed airlines had halted flights to Barbados, one of the largest hubs closest to Venezuela in terms of tourism.
3 major areas in the region, Eastern and Southern Caribbean, and then one in Puerto Rico, 4 altogether in the Caribbean, that effectively manage the upper flight space. And Curacao remained closed until just now. Piarco never closed, but we were affected by all U.S. registered flights. It is fair to say that there were 13 scheduled inbound flights that were cancelled, all of them full. The exact numbers are being confirmed as we speak. JetBlue, Delta Airlines, United Airlines. We also were aware that KLM cancelled their flight even though they were not coming from the U.S.
And in a statement from CARICOM, the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM met very early Saturday, following reports of military action in Venezuela. CARICOM says it is actively monitoring the situation, which is of grave concern to the region, with possible implications for neighboring countries. CARICOM promises to continue to update the people of the region as more information is received. Aggression on the part of a stronger world power should not be normalized or accepted. That caution from an independent security weighing in on the U.S.'s invasion of Venezuela, which resulted in them supposedly assuming control of the country. Military analyst Sanjay Badri Maharaj believes there is confusion about who is currently running the country. He's of the view silence on the matter is the best option for regional countries, that is.
The region needs to be very careful on how it reacts. The region has a tendency to make very bombastic and very deluded statements about principle. I think right now, the reality is we are dealing with a very mercurial government in the United States. And as such, grandiose statements that cannot be supported by either economic or military means need to be avoided at all costs. The fact is Venezuela is undergoing a transition. The fact is that the United States is going to do whatever it wants without us being able to stop them. The fact is there's no rules-based international order anymore. All the protestations from the West about such a rules-based order are now gone. And unilateral aggression on the part of stronger powers seems to have now been normalized and accepted by the United States.
To local news now. Despite search efforts today, it's more than 48 hours since a New Year's Day beach tragedy in St. Catherine, with still no account of 2 of 3 residents who got into difficulties at sea. It was a chain of each one trying to help the other in an area head of the Marine Division Superintendent Eglon Samuels describes as dangerous, which led to all 3 seemingly losing their lives. Heartbreak for a wife thousands of miles away in the United States from her husband in Jamaica. Also grieving a younger brother and a sister 1 year older, also overseas. Friends as well as members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Constable Shamar Grant, attached to the Portmore station, otherwise called 100-man station, is still listed as missing at sea since a New Year's Day double rescue effort gone wrong.
That particular area is not for swimming. The reef is high, the reef is dangerous, the tide is high, and the water has a current. Anybody who goes into that area to swim, they are likely to get into difficulty, and if you do, it is highly unlikely that there will be anybody else there to help you. And once your body goes under, it is difficult to retrieve, right? Because the water is dark underneath. The water is dark and the current is high.
The pain is double for another St. Catherine family, as the female the policeman went to save got into difficulties while trying to save a younger male relative. The unfortunate sequence unfolded at the beach in an area called Sand Hill in the Hellshire community of St. Catherine at about 3 in the afternoon when Aaron Russell was spotted struggling in the water. 24-year-old Alia Dawkins went to his assistance. However, she got into difficulties too. That's when Constable Grant, who was off duty, went to help. Miss Dawkins somehow made it out of the water and was taken to hospital. Unfortunately, she died. As for young Russell and Constable Grant, up to late Friday, searches conducted by the Jamaica Defence Force, the Police Coast Guard and local fishermen returned with no good news.
Up to today, the marine team went there. The sea condition did not allow them to search for a long period of time.
CVM News was told the lawman who lost his mother 2 years ago was always skeptical about going out on holidays and was also hesitant to enter large bodies of water on outings, especially because he was living with the autoimmune disease lupus. A distraught best friend recalls how Shan, as he's affectionately called, was the first to wish her Happy New Year. She was traumatized by the phone call later, telling her the cop who joined the JCF at age 18, a Bridgeport High Pass student and godfather to her child, was missing at sea. Then, tasked with breaking the news to his wife and siblings, was something she wishes she did not have to do to begin 2026.
Honestly, I don't see any reason why anyone would want to venture into that area to swim. Well, we have the good public beach otherwise, and there are other areas that people can go and swim in. They don't go to Hellshire Beach or Fort Clarence. There are other areas that people can go and swim, which are very safe. Much safer than that particular area. It's very dangerous there.
Residents in eastern St. Thomas say they are staring danger in the face because of an obstruction along a roadway. Routine commute is a high-risk navigation for motorists for too long now, forcing them to demand swift response. Crystal Williams tells us more.
A motor vehicle reportedly crashed in St. Thomas on the passage connecting Port Morant and Bowden. The president of the Eastern St. Thomas Taxi Association, Kirk Brown, says the accident was caused by a light post in the middle of the road, obstructing the roadway. He says it would be unfortunate if this were allowed to happen again.
Appealing to the motorists to be cautious, especially when you travel these areas, because of this pool that is in the road can cause accident because there was already one here.
The president's request to the relevant authorities is for the removal of obstacles that can cause accidents to ensure optimal safety on the roads.
The construction, China Harbour, or JPS, to remove this pool as quick as possible because we don't want to cause any more accident. So many accidents in Jamaica. And these are some of the things that cause some of the accident. So we are appealing to you to come and remove this pool or any object that can cause accident.
He also says this road requires more lighting for motorists, especially at night.
I know that there's just a few little reflectors, but put some more sign warning, especially when you are in the construction zone. We need something to warn motorists that this is a construction zone. So to drive careful, some lighting would be good because as you might observe, it's mostly bushes around this area and at night it's very dark. So this also needs to address.
This is Crystal Williams reporting for CVM News.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is talking up Jamaica's reduction in murders and the 5% growth in the economy for the third quarter of 2025. Dr. Holness is framing the milestones as signals of resilience and renewal. We go back to Krista Williams for more details.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is praising a 5% growth in the island's economy during the July to September quarter of 2025. He says economic growth is one major achievement that inspires hope for Jamaica in 2026.
The last quarter results from the PIOJ shows that Jamaica grew by over 5%. When Jamaica was hit by crises in the past, our growth would not have been within quarters. Our growth would have been within decades. What we have seen under my administration over the last decade is that when we are hit by super phenomenal events, you will see that the ability of the economy to head back to growth within the year of the impact is phenomenal.
According to Dr. Holness, this has not always been the case in the Jamaican economy. He says, under his administration, the country has developed a key factor for growth.
What is that thing? What is this intangible change that the commentators and the analysts have not yet picked up on? It is a word that we have been using over and over and over and over again. It is a word called resilience. The Jamaican economy is showing very strong signs of resilience.
Another achievement Dr. Holness touts is the 42% reduction in murders.
For the first time in 31 years, the country can collectively celebrate, because this is an achievement for everyone. The third year of reduction in murders. We have cracked the psychological barrier of 1,000 murders per year. The objective of the government is for the country to attain peace.
Crystal Williams reporting for CVM News.
To this update now, the government is for the first time explaining its decision to help finance the Jamaica Public Service, the JPS, as the company works to speed up the restoration of the national electricity grid. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the administration's loan of $150 million to JPS is a move that has drawn criticism, but he argues the support is necessary because electricity remains a public service that the country cannot afford to see disrupted. Here's more from Carla Ramdeen.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is addressing for the first time the government's decision to fund the Jamaica Public Service, JPS, $150 million. Dr. Holness explains the decision was made so to accelerate repairs to the national grid.
The JPS is a private company. The government has a 19.9%, 20% stake in this private company. But that is not the point. The point is that though the JPS is a private company with public interest, the JPS provides a public service. In effect, the JPS provides a public good. And that public good cannot in any way be disrupted. It is the foundation on which we have growth, it is the foundation for security, and it is the foundation for your daily convenience. And therefore, the government must do everything in its power to ensure that our electricity grid is up and running effectively.
Dr. Holness notes that some people have criticized the move, but he says the country cannot afford the long delays in restoring power.
It has been criticized in quarters for which the criticism is not unexpected. But it is important to position it against other decisions that we have made, which have turned out to be the correct decisions, and which has facilitated the building of resilience and the fast recovery of the economy.
The Prime Minister adds that even though JPS's license is now being renegotiated, the loan and the licensing process will be handled separately.
And right now, the government of Jamaica and the JPS continues in negotiation to find the optimum, the best position for a new license for their operations and regulations in Jamaica.
Dr. Holness was speaking Friday morning at the JPS's Hunts Bay power plant. Carla Ramdeen, CVM News.
And now, regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. The U.S. has captured Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro after a large-scale strike on the South American country. It comes after explosions were reported across the capital Caracas in the early hours of Saturday morning, including at military bases. We hear from the BBC.
Handcuffed, blindfolded, captured from his country. This is Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro being sent to the U.S. after being seized by U.S. forces.
It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. It was dark and it was deadly, but captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens.
The capture led many wondering who would now run Venezuela. And then, this.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Washington says Maduro will face charges including conspiracy to commit narco-terrorism and import cocaine. His seizure was part of a huge military operation. Venezuela's capital, Caracas, woke to the sound of the city under attack. Helicopters, flames, explosions. These were strikes on the city's key military sites. Eyewitnesses woke in the early hours to the sound of booms.
Cuba has denounced what it describes as a criminal U.S. attack on Venezuela and is urgently calling for a reaction from the international community. The Cuban presidency has accused the United States of state terrorism against the Venezuelan people and said what it describes as a zone of peace was being brutally assaulted. The details from France 24.
And it's clear that this is very, very important for the Cuban government. Venezuela is among Cuba's main allies. Arguably, it's the main ally. You also have China, very economically important, and Russia, politically important to Cuba. But it's really been Venezuela over the last 25 years, certainly under Nicolas Maduro's predecessor, that's been hugely important and certainly in the early 2000s emerged as Cuba's main ally. Crucially, Venezuela supplies Cuba with crude oil, and that oil is used to keep the lights on, or at least what light that there still is on in Havana. So it's a hugely important ally in that sense, because keeping the power on is the most important issue from the government's point of view. Cubans, for years now, have been facing daily power cuts that can last for 12, 18 hours, sometimes in the provinces. So the spectre that the government could have been destabilized, or possibly, we'll see what happens in the coming hours, fall, would be a huge blow for Cuba.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley has confirmed that there is no evidence or any reports of any injuries to Barbadians in Venezuela, as we hear from the official channel of the Prime Minister's Office of Barbados.
Let me be very clear, Colville. Venezuela is our friend. The United States of America is our friend. In fact, in both instances, we have family relations with both countries. By the same token, the Caribbean community has been the entity that we have chosen as a matter of first principles to align our foreign policy with. When the heads of government met this morning, all of the persons were not there because it was an emergency early meeting. We took a decision that we will wait for other information to become present. And when that happens, we will certainly act collectively, and I do not want in any way to prejudice the integrity of that consultative process with CARICOM. Having said that, I've been very clear that our principles are very, very clear, and that small states, and by small I don't only mean as small as Barbados, but much larger than Barbados, but still considered small. Small states can only survive in an international rules-based order. And that, therefore, anything that happens that runs contrary to that would be of grave concern to us as a people in Barbados, but equally as to the region.
And that's it for regional and international news.
Forced by Hurricane Melissa to put a small poultry business aside and seek shelter, a Westmoreland farmer put pen to paper to document the impact of the devastating system. As it turned out, protecting her daughter's fragile mind was paramount.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.
Kadia Gooden from Belvedere, Westmoreland.
You literally can't refine all your animals. And this is where I used to call home. This is what is left of it.
She's a mother of two, an 11-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter.
I do farming for a living, and personally I haven't started field as yet because I don't know where to start. Haven't started picking up the pieces. The worst part of it is that I've got the children to go to school. They haven't started school as yet, but when that part comes, I'm not sure how I'm going to cross that border, but that's it. I'm a farmer and I lost basically everything.
What did you farm?
I do mostly chicken, broiler chickens. So I lost my coop and all the chickens. I lost my freezer with 200 pounds in it, plus the house.
So where do you stay now?
Well, I currently stay at a one room that my brother has. Right, so we all stay there for the time being. My son just started going to the Manning school, and now my daughter is in grade 1 at Mount Herman Primary.
So while she's not going to school, how do you keep her mind active?
Well, I think I am a very good parent teacher. I can only teach my kids still, but we work all the time. We work right through. Like, she never rests.
Is there anything in particular that you did with her?
She was broken by the storm, so it inspired me to write the storm, even though she's still broken, because she loves school a lot.
What's the name of the poem?
Hurricane Melissa by Azalea Wainwright. What a way Melissa did terrible. When me hear the wind start to change gear, me hide under the sheet with me heart full of fear. Board of I left, zinc of I right. But we happy, thank God, Melissa never blew a night.
Inasmuch as Azalea stood among the ruins of her house to recite the encounter, CVM News shielded her from reliving all of the trauma. So she hid under the sheet?
Right. She hid and she fell asleep. Like, before the eye came past, she fell asleep and she didn't wake until the next morning. Like,
what was her first reaction, or the children around you when they went outside?
She didn't. Well, when the storm was over and she went outside, it was. I can't even find words to describe how she felt. She was broken when she saw that we had nowhere to live, and right now she no longer enjoys sleeping on the floor, but that's what we have for now.
Look, when the school, what do you use a book of to get the medication? Me never see nothing to smile about.
Interestingly, the high note after picking up the debris on which this life lesson ends has caught on.
Are we traumatized? Because we take up the debris piece by piece. Jamaica, we shall rise.
Aww, we shall rise, honey. What's your Christmas wish?
Maybe to get some help to just build before January when school really begins. That's my main aim. That's the only way out of poverty is education. So.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.